We are live. Good afternoon, Lynn. And you have chosen a stonking song today. I have climbed highest mountains. I have run through the field only to be with you. Only to be with you. And I still haven't found what I'm looking for. But I still haven't found what I'm looking for. There we go. The show's about you, not about the song. But Lynn, welcome. Why did you choose that song?
Well, there's a few reasons. When I looked up the song, actually, couldn't believe that the album that it was on was released in 1987. Oh my God, that's so long ago.
Wow. 35 years ago,
So,
Lynn.
yeah, that's when you two were sort of a bit more cool. They're not quite as cool now, are they? But anyway, that I sing a little bit and play the guitar, not as well as you. And I've only got about 10 songs that I can sing. And that's one of them. And my kids have grown up thinking that I wrote that song.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was only a couple of years ago, because I did write a few of my own that I just sing at home. And it was only a few years ago that I was sort of talking about it to the kids, and they said, "Oh, we thought you wrote that."
Oh, that
I
is
wish.
fantastic.
I
wish. I came to the guitar a lot later in life, so the kids know all the songs that I play. I have written a few, but nothing as good as I still haven't found what I'm looking for. By you too, but what a stunning song. Lynn Paxman, thank you so much for joining me. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I know that the bit that you're interested in is the fact that I'm a snail farmer, but I do other things as well.
Say that again, just so we know.
So yes, we farm snails. And
brilliant.
Yeah, it's kind of a side hustle. So the story is that we moved to this house in Wellington, which is near to Taunton in Somerset, about 4.5 years ago now. And we knew that we wanted to do something with some of the land that we've got. And I was sort of Googling what to do. And there were ideas like growing Christmas trees, a vineyard, having alpacas. But all of it took too much investment, took too long to get any return on that investment, or you needed skills like animal husbandry, and we didn't have any of those things. So then I was lying in bed one Sunday morning on my phone and literally just found snail farming. So we went over to Ireland to meet Eva, who's been doing it for 15 years or so, learned a little bit about it and went from there. So we started building the enclosure and everything at the end of 2019, and 2020 was our first year of farming. So that was the pandemic year. And I got a bit worried thinking that we weren't going to be able to sell any because all the restaurants were closed. But actually 2021, so we harvested them, and then 2021, it went really well. And I found that we can sell them to people who've got reptiles as pets. So snakes and lizards and things eat them as well. And I also supply a few zoos, which is quite exciting.
That's super cool.
Yeah. So yeah, and it definitely makes me memorable. Not necessarily for what I want to be remembered for, but it makes me memorable. So, who's complaining?
It's nice absolutely. So what's your real job then? Come on.
Real job. So that's Somerset escargot. And then apart from that, alongside of that, I've had a consultancy for a while called Evolve You. And that's sort of evolving. It's still evolving. And earlier this year, so over the pandemic, neither myself or my husband were really working. So he'd left a job, and it's harder to do consultancy work when there's a pandemic on. So we were sort of looking into all sorts of different things, and we ended up buying a dental practice. We have got backgrounds in working within dentistry, but we're not dentists. So we bought a dental practice down in Cornwall, and it ended us having an opportunity to buy another 8. So then that was a whole thing about getting the investment for those 8. And we bought those and completed on those in, I think it was March or April this year. I can't remember when, but it's such a long journey that once you get there, you're so relieved you can't remember. And I'm working with them quite a lot, helping to develop culture. So my consultancy for all of its years has been around leadership development, and creating the right kind of culture within teams and organisations. So really for me, that's people practicing what they preach. Lots of people talk about values and culture and what it's like to work here, but actually that comes down to leadership and really sticking to your guns on it and really, let's say, practicing what you preach. So I'm helping our dental company to do that, but I do work with a couple of other clients as well. So it's quite an exciting time to see where that all sort of evolves to.
Oh,
obviously, evolve is one of my favourite words.
Yeah, absolutely. You keep banging that evolve word in. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. And I want to find out a little bit about your use of LinkedIn. So we'll come back to all of what you do
Sure.
in a little while. But I want to know how long you've been on LinkedIn and why you like it.
Yeah, so I looked that up, and I've been on LinkedIn since May 2006, so a really long time.
Absolutely.
But I think I didn't really start using it probably until 2016, something like that. So around 2016 was when I set up Evolve You. So I think that's when I really started to look at how to use it. Before that, it pretty much, I thought it was like a lot of people in the early days, it was a bit like a CV thing.
Online CV, yep.
Put your CV on there and, see what happens kind of thing. So yeah, probably started using it about 2016. And then that's how I use it has changed over time as well. So I do use it more now than I did when I first started. Maybe because other people are using it a bit more, and maybe because I think when you first start using it, you sort of have to get the hang of how to do it, and that just took a little while. And also what I wanted to say, who I was, that kind of thing. It's sort of getting your head around. It's a little
bit alien, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, it's taken a little while to really get to grips with that and feel quite comfortable there now. And I do feel a lot more comfortable now. And sort of had to build up to that, I think.
And do you get business from what you do on LinkedIn, Lynn?
Not really. I think the main thing that I have had business, but the main thing I use LinkedIn for is networking. So it's really helped me to build up those connections, and particularly over the last couple of years. So there's some really good connections I've made within dentistry, for example. And the pandemic did me a favour in that way, in that there were people who wouldn't normally have been available to talk to, who had some time on their hands. And I've had some really nice conversations with people. And they're not necessarily about business, not right now anyway. They might lead to something, or some collaborations or something like that in the future. But I just really enjoy that I've built that network, and that feels really great to me. So LinkedIn isn't directly about getting business for me. It's about those connections and that network. And I just really love as well, I've really enjoyed seeing the journeys of other people. So, how they have evolved. So, I'm talking about myself and how I've started to get more comfortable. And I noticed that about other people as well, when they first sort of start out and what they're talking about and how they present what they're doing. And that, I see that evolve over time. And I really love seeing people's journeys. That's one of the things.
That's fantastic. Your dog's barking away there. So
Can you hear him?
There's two questions, right? So one is it A, the postman, or B, is he rounding up the stock?
Yeah, that would take a while actually to round up the stock, because snails are slow, aren't they? It was the postman, and I was thinking, my husband, get the door.
Get the door.
Anyway,
get the door. Get the door. I'm on a live.
Yeah,
get the door.
I told you I was on a live. Get the door.
and I think what you're saying there about the networking, it's such a friendly place, LinkedIn, isn't it? It's just, you like you say, and you see other people, and oh my goodness, oh, they're doing that, oh, they're doing this, and you probably noticed I've got a book coming out and all that sort of stuff. It's it really is incredible. Okay, so this leadership thing, I've had 30 jobs in my career.
Have you?
So yeah, I know. I don't look old enough, do I? I just I did actually work as a postman once, actually. Honest, this is the truth. I did get the sack. But it was only a temporary job in between jobs. So yeah, I've done quite a lot of different things. But I've worked for some toxic companies. where the leadership is rubbish. And I was literally listening to a podcast this morning about this very topic. And they were talking about getting your team to share your values. And once you do that, it's a totally different thing. And I work for this company where I just felt like I was working for, let's call them Bob and Dick. Yeah, the two owners. I felt like I was going to work to help Bob and Dick. Yeah. They sold out to this big corporate, and they started employing loads of other people. And it felt then as if I was working for a company with other people that were coming just to make money. And the whole culture of the company changed, not overnight, but it absolutely changed. And I can put it down to that one thing, because Bob and Dick went, we weren't doing it for them anymore. We didn't know who we were doing it for. And we were there just to get the money. I still had the values that Bob and Dick had instilled in me, and I was still helping all my customers. But it's quite weird. So how do I do that with my small business as I take on staff, as I grow? And this is, I guess, this is the dilemma that you're having with all your dentistry business that you work with.
Yeah, it is. It's one of the main challenges, because how a dental corporate grows, which is what we are, is through acquiring small businesses. And those small businesses would have been just like you described, Ashley, where people would have come into work because they felt loyal to the person who owned that business, and they wanted to do a really good job for them, and they enjoy the team and all of that sort of thing. And the biggest fear is that when they're acquired and they're bought, that will disappear. So it's how do we retain that small business feel and local feel whilst being part of a larger business? And I think that you'd be lying if you said that when a business is acquired and becomes part of a bigger group, there's no change, because of course there's change. There's new people involved.
Well, Bob and Dick have gone.
Well, actually, Bob and Dick do stay around in a dental business for a few years, but they're not leading that business anymore. And there are new people coming in every week and getting involved, or new faces. So that's a change in itself. So I think it's easier to retain the values in a small business. So you were saying, how can you do that in your own business? Because actually values are often about what's important to the founder of the business, and they just naturally convey that and instill it into people who join, because you're closer to those people as well. You kind of maybe sit on the desk next to them even. You kind of have those opportunities to influence and communicate every day. But as an organisation grows and you get more and more layers in the organisation, I think that's when it gets tricky. And that's where I think it is about instilling a certain style of leadership within an organisation. So it has to start from that senior team, and you've got to get that senior team so they are absolutely, completely aligned with whatever the founder believes in, and they understand how to articulate that and what that means in practice. And that's been really interesting, actually. So today's dental, which is the business that we've set up, the mission is to be deeply human. So it's starting with culture at its heart. But I've seen the team kind of interpret that in different ways. So that's really interesting, that you think something makes sense because it makes sense to me, but it can be interpreted differently. So for some people, being deeply human might be, well, I'll do everything for everybody rather than put pressure on them, because that's taking care of them. But that's not them taking care of themselves, because they're taking it all on themselves. So I think it needs a really strong, clear vision of what that leadership is. It's something that, again, evolves, but you have to pay attention to how it's evolving and constantly bring it back into focus. You can't just take it for granted that it's going to happen. Go, oh, we've got a vision, we've got a mission, we've got some values, tick, job done, right, that'll happen. You have to keep having conversations about it. Are we actually on track? How are people interpreting that mission and those values? Oh, okay, we're interpreting that differently. So what do we want to agree is the way that we do it? And it has to keep coming back into focus. And then that will distill into the next level of management and the next level of management and so on. But to me, the key is keeping it in focus and having conversations about it. And what we're doing at Today's Dental, which is really different, is it's part of the board meetings as well. So it's considered part of the strategy. It is a strategic move, if you like. It's part of it is key to our strategy, and it's kept on the strategic agenda because of that. Quite often, culture's kind of relegated to something that happens because it's fluffy. Culture is not fluffy. It has a strategic impact and it has a commercial value if it's paid attention to.
So do you do work with people and get their visions and their I can't think of the word now, but what they believe in, their beliefs? Do you dig that out of them?
Yeah, so that's some of the work that we do. Yeah, working with teams and getting them to articulate the values. But I really enjoy getting them to articulate it in a meaningful way. So you tend to kind of get the same tick box values: trust, integrity, honesty. All the same words come out every time because they do have a universal meaning. But I like to dig a little bit deeper. Well, what does that really mean? Okay. So, for instance, I worked with a youth cafe up in Scunthorpe. So this was a sort of a rundown area, and the youth cafe was there specifically for kids who just had nothing else to do. And there was a youth worker there as well. So completely different to the dental group. I like working with those kind of organisations, purpose-driven organisations as well. And we came up with some values that really had meaning for them. And they would go down the same road: trust, integrity, etc. And I said, what are some of the key things that you say to each other? And one of the things that they would say, it's a little bit rude, but not terrible for a lunchtime, was don't be a dick. So that was one of the things they'd say to each other: don't be a dick. And that was one of their values, because within that, there was so much meaning in terms of just be nice to each other, treat each other with respect, all pull together and get the job done. If something needs doing, notice it and do it. There was so much in there, and their faces just lit up when we started to talk their language. And values should be about your language. So many times people think about values as what the customer thinks, or we have to have values that we can use as marketing tools. Yeah, that's part of it, but start with really what's in your heart and your gut. That's where the meaning is, and then the rest kind of follows.
No, I totally love that, because who wants to be a dick? And and you don't want clients thinking that you're a bit of a dick as a business, because they're going to tell everybody else, and your reputation's ruined. So I love that. I love that.
I mean, that fitted the organisation that they were, a youth cafe. Fitted them as well. So it was appropriate for who they were as well.
No, fantastic.
So,
superb. So what challenges are there for business owners trying to create a culture? Because some of these, I work for some large corporates, and basically culture is, we've got free snacks in the fridge, and we've got a pool table. And we got a slide from the second to the third floor. Sorry, third to the second floor.
It comes down.
It doesn't go up. But it's like, we got a great culture. Yeah, we don't wear a suit on a Friday. Yeah, that's brilliant. And how do we get our leaders to, I don't know, stop being a dick?
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of it is that leaders need to understand the commercial value. So, you do have to kind of bring it down to the language that speaks to business people often. And the fact that it isn't a soft, fluffy thing to do, it really does have a commercial value. So, if you get it right, you attract people, you retain people, you have much better productivity. There's all of those things. And, from a dental group point of view, one of the key things for us is, if we want to buy more dental practices, then we need to have a fantastic reputation. Otherwise, they're going to go and sell to one of our competitors. So, there is a lot, and really what you're doing with your culture is backing up your brand. So you could call it your employer brand, but it's backing up your brand. What you say to the external world needs to be what happens on the internal world. So I think that's the starting point, is that kind of commercial value. Then the tricky bit is actually what people need to then be prepared to do is look at themselves, because leadership is about knowing yourself. It's about knowing when your own buttons get pressed, and knowing how you interact with others. And that's the harder bit. You've got to have absolute buy-in from people to want to really go down that route of looking at culture, because it starts with every single individual, and they have to be prepared to look at themselves. And that's what, again, where it's got to start from the strategic viewpoint, because if the strategic level are not bought into it and they think, oh, that's for everybody else to do, which again often happens, we'll do the pool tables, we'll do the fry because that'll keep them happy. No, what about, you and how you're behaving and how that filters into the teams? It has to start there. And that's what I do enjoy, working with small to medium-sized businesses for that reason, because I think once you've got to that large scale and you haven't paid attention to the culture, it is a lot harder to turn it around.
And so you've got the dental businesses, but you go out to other businesses and help them with their culture. Is that right, Lynn?
Yeah, that's right. I tend to talk about the dental business mostly at the moment because it's so fresh. But I do have other clients as well. And so I particularly like working with what I call purpose-driven organisations. So that could be charities and community interest companies, but it may also be a commercial business, but they really want to do things differently, because it's got to start from that point of recognising it comes with the strategy. If I'm asked to go into an organisation where they say, we're all right, but the middle management team are not getting it, can you sort them out? It's never going to work.
Yeah.
Because everybody needs to
get it. The alarm bells start going off. Oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. And it has to be understood that it aligns with your brand, your strategy. What are you trying to achieve strategically? Therefore, how do you need to lead? And therefore, what do you need your culture to be? It's not like a little add-on. People go, oh, that's the strategy. We'll just kind of, those Velcro wall things.
Another box to tick.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like they stick it on with a bit of Velcro. Oh, it's quite secure. That'll do. No, it's got to be all part of the same thing.
Yeah, part of the foundation. No, absolutely super. That we could chat about this absolutely all day. We've already gone over our 15 minutes.
Have we?
Yeah, and I don't think people mind. But can I ask you some quick questions, quick fire questions about being a snail farmer? Do you wear wellies?
Yes, I do wear wellies, and I had some hunter wellies and they cracked, which I was very disappointed about because they're meant to be high quality. So now I've got some fit flop wellies and they cracked, but I got those replaced. So I'll tell you, getting a good pair of quality wellies is not easy.
The dilemmas of being a farmer, Lynn. So how many snails have you got at the moment? Do you call them sheds? Do you call them barns? What do you call them?
We've got a hibernation cupboard at this time of year. I don't know exactly, but probably between 80,000 to 125,000. I'm kind of
snails.
Yes.
So you don't name them then?
No, and that's why I don't know the exact number because I don't count them either.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
So that's estimated on how many clusters of eggs were laid, and then on average there's sort of 80 to 100 eggs in each cluster, so you kind of make an estimate, and then they don't all hatch, they don't all survive, so I don't know, about that.
That is incredible. Right, what do you feed them?
When they're outside, we plant forage rape for them, which is kind of like a brassica leaf. Cows eat it as well, so they enjoy that, but we supplement it with a special snail food that you can actually buy. So, we're not the only snail farmers in the world, and it's got all of the calcium and nutrients and everything in it that they need. So just sort of sprinkle that out for them and they enjoy that. And so, if I've got any leftover greens and stuff, I give them. But obviously with 100,000 odd snails, a bit of my leftover cucumber isn't going to go very far.
That's hilarious. So an egg hatches. When can I send it off to the local restaurant that does escargot? Yeah,
so we start breeding in about February time. The hatchlings take a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks to hatch, and then we fatten them throughout the season. So it takes them 6 to 9 months to be fattened and fully mature. So it's quite quick because they're in captivity. They've got no predators. They've got abundant food.
But just as long as a lamb would take.
Yeah. I don't know anything about lambs.
Interesting. Lucky you. That is amazing. I bet you're great fun at dinner parties.
Well, it does. It certainly gives you something to talk about.
Yeah. And do you eat any of the stock yourself, or you
Yeah,
don't
I do.
like? Yeah.
I do, but I do prefer it when somebody else prepares them. So I give this comparison. We went fishing at Lyme Regis once and we caught some mackerel. So you get your mackerel home, and then you have to gut it and get off the scales and prepare it. And by the time you've done all of that, you're a bit like, I'm not sure if I fancy this fish anymore. And I'm a bit like that about the snails. So if somebody else prepares it, great. But it's quite a process to get them ready to eat.
That is amazing. Absolutely superb. I've got one more question for you. Before I do that, I'm just going to quickly go to my guest next week, so we know who's coming next week. I think I set it all up. I hope I did. Yes, I have. I've got somebody from Lithuania. So this is Alvadas, and he's an early stage startup advisor. So looking forward to having a chat with him. Real great character. He's not a snail farmer, but he'll be here next week. Lynn, my very last question to you: what tip would you give your 16-year-old self?
Oh yeah, that question. Well, do you know what? It was believe that you're going to blossom. I was quite a sort of geeky, gawky young person, and really wait for the right person to help you to release your potential. I feel like my potential was released later in life. There've been lots of people along the way, and I remarried. I met Rob. I don't know how long ago now, 15 years ago or something like that. And I feel like I've really become grounded and, sort of much happier in myself since then. So, yeah, it's kind of have that self-belief in yourself at 16 and don't put up with second best.
Perfect. What a lovely way to end the show. Lynn, you've been an absolute star. Thank you so much for coming along. Thank you for sharing your story. And we will be back again next week. Cheer, everybody. Bye-bye, Lynn.
Bye.
Yeah, you take care. Bye-bye.